At 11:58 p.m., the church was supposed to be empty. The last car had already pulled out of the parking lot. The lights were turned down. The alarm system was armed. And the security cameras inside St. Michael's Catholic Church in a quiet Midwestern town were quietly recording like they did every night. Nothing unusual, nothing special. Just another cold Tuesday in January. Until at 12:03 a.m., a strange light appeared. Not from a passing car, not from a flashlight, not from a candle. It hovered. It pulsed. It grew brighter and brighter, and then settled gently right over the statue of the Virgin Mary near the side altar. The camera recorded everything. The next morning, the parish secretary opened the office like she always did at 8 a.m. She turned on the coffee machine, checked her emails, and then glanced at the notifications from the security system. Motion detected. 12:03 a.m. inside the church. Her heart skipped a beat. When she clicked on the footage, she dropped her mug. Because there, in the middle of the night, with no one inside the building and all the doors locked, the security camera had captured a glowing, living light hovering over Our Lady's statue, as if someone from heaven had quietly stepped into their ordinary, struggling parish. Tonight on Av Miracles, this is the story of what really happened inside that church. How a simple camera, a frightened community, a grieving mother, and a mysterious light over the Virgin Mary statue changed the lives of people who thought God had forgotten them. St. Michael's Catholic Church sat on the corner of a quiet street in a small town outside Cleveland, Ohio. It wasn't famous. It wasn't a shrine. It wasn't a cathedral that tourists lined up to visit. It was just home. Home for the families that came every Sunday with noisy kids. Home for the elderly couple that always sat in the second pew on the left. Home for people who didn't always understand their faith perfectly, but who knew they needed somewhere to bring their worries. The pastor, Father Daniel Reyes, was in his late 40s. Born in Texas, he had the kind of warm voice that could make even the hardest scripture sound like a personal letter from God. He'd been at St. Michael's for 7 years now, long enough to know almost every parishioner by name. But in the last 2 years, something had changed. Mass attendance was down. The pandemic years had shaken people's faith. Several families had moved away. There were rumors that the diocese was quietly talking about merging St. Michael's with another parish. And then there was Anna Rossi. Anna was in her late 30s, with tired eyes and a gentle smile that had almost forgotten how to stay on her face. 2 years before the strange light appeared, she had lost her only son, Ethan, in a car accident. He had been just 13. Since that night, Anna had walked around like a ghost inside her own life. She went to work, she paid bills, she forced herself to eat, but she didn't really live. People at church whispered that Anna used to be the first one to volunteer, the one who led the children's choir, the one who decorated the altar with fresh flowers for the Virgin Mary every May. Now she barely looked up during Mass. Still, she came. She sat in the last pew near the back door, where she could leave if the memories became too heavy. And every time she entered the church, something drew her eyes to the pale, quiet statue of Mary on the right side of the sanctuary. Our Lady with her hands open, eyes lowered, a simple blue mantle over white robes. Anna didn't know how to talk to God anymore. But sometimes when the church was empty, she whispered to Mary, "You lost your son too? So if you're really there, please just help me breathe again." Winter that year came down hard on the town. Snowstorms closed schools. Power lines went down. The roads turned to sheets of ice. At St. Michael's, the boiler broke twice. The collection baskets came back lighter and lighter. The parish council began to talk about cutting programs. No more youth group, no more weekday adoration, maybe even eliminating one of the Sunday masses. Father Daniel tried to stay hopeful, but late at night, alone in the rectory, he stared at the parish budget and felt a knot in his chest. "Lord, are we failing you, or are we just forgotten?" He didn't say that out loud to his parishioners. Instead, he preached homilies about trust, about God working in hidden ways, about not giving up when things looked bleak. But he watched the faces in the pews, tired parents, worried grandparents, skeptical teenagers scrolling their phones after Mass, and he wondered how many of them still believed that God was truly close. Anna, meanwhile, was fighting a different kind of storm. The second anniversary of Ethan's death was approaching. She had stopped going to his grave as often because every visit felt like twisting a knife inside her chest. Sometimes she would sit in her small kitchen at night, staring at Ethan's baseball cap hanging on the wall, and whisper, "Where were you, God? You let my boy die. What kind of love is that?" Her friends invited her out. Her sister begged her to join a grief support group, but Anna shrugged them off. She did one thing, though. Almost every evening, on her way home from the late shift at the hospital where she worked as a receptionist, Anna stopped by St. Michael's. She didn't always go in. Sometimes she just sat in her car, watching the church doors. But on the nights when her heart felt heavy enough to crush her, she would step inside, dip her fingers in the holy water, make the sign of the cross, and quietly take her place in that same back pew. There in the dim light, she would look at the statue of Our Lady. She couldn't feel anything. No warmth, no comfort, no magical peace. But she kept coming anyway. One night, as snow tapped gently against the stained glass windows, she whispered, "Mary, if you're real, if you can hear me, I don't need a miracle. I just need to know that my son is not lost, that I'm not alone. Just something. Please." She almost laughed at herself. She was an adult, talking to a statue in an empty church. But then she remembered that Our Lady wasn't just a statue. She was a mother, a real woman who had walked this earth, buried her son, and watched him rise again. Anna shook her head, wiped her eyes, and left the church. She had no idea that just a few nights later, something would happen in that very same spot, recorded by a silent camera high in the choir loft. Because of a break-in a year earlier, some teenagers had tried to steal from the poor box. The parish council had finally approved a donation to upgrade the church's security system. Now, small discreet cameras watched over the front doors, the side entrance, the sacristy, and the main body of the church. They recorded on a loop every night. Most of the time, they captured nothing more dramatic than the flicker of the sanctuary lamp and the slow dimming of the lights after evening mass. But in January, something unusual happened. On the day in question, snow had fallen heavily since late afternoon. Only a small group came to the evening mass. After communion, Father Daniel announced that due to the weather, the church would close early and all activities would be canceled the next day. As people bundled up and left, Anna lingered in the last pew. Her boots were wet, her coat felt too big, her heart felt heavier than the snow-covered sky outside. She watched as Father Daniel extinguished the candles near the statue of Mary, leaving only the soft red glow of the sanctuary lamp near the tabernacle. He didn't see her standing there, but Mary did. Anna whispered so quietly that the microphones in the church didn't pick it up. "If you're really a mother, show me that you haven't forgotten us. Show me that God still sees this place, that he still sees me." She turned and walked out into the snow. At 9:30 p.m., the last volunteer locked up the side door, armed the alarm, and set the building for the night. At 11:58 p.m., the church remained completely dark. The motion sensors showed nothing. All doors were still closed. But at 12:02 a.m., the motion alert software, which sometimes was triggered by a bug flying close to the lens or a passing car beam outside, sent a small silent notification to the system. It flagged movement near the right side altar. Location: the statue of the Virgin Mary. No one saw it yet. No one was watching the cameras live, but the system recorded everything. At 12:03 a.m., a faint glow appeared near the lower part of the statue, just above the base. It didn't come from the windows. They were pitch black. It didn't come from a candle. The candles had been extinguished hours before. It didn't come from a person. No figure entered the frame. No door opened. The glow grew slowly at first, like someone turning a dimmer switch up on a hidden light. Then, almost like a living heartbeat, it pulsed. The outline of the statue's blue mantle began to shimmer. The soft white robes seemed to pick up a light that wasn't there, as if someone were shining a spotlight from an invisible balcony. But there was no spotlight. What the camera captured next would leave even some skeptics at a loss for words. The video shows this clearly. At first, the light is just a gentle glow. Then it concentrates, right over Mary's chest, where her heart would be. A distinct oval-shaped light appears, brighter than the surroundings but not harsh. It's not the kind of glare you get from a lens flare. It doesn't streak across the frame. It doesn't move abruptly. Instead, it hovers like a warm flame made of pure white and soft gold. It bathes the statue in radiance. Her face, usually a little shadowed in the dim church, suddenly looks almost alive. The folds of her robe become clear. The carved lines of her hands seem more defined. Then something even stranger happens. For a few seconds, the entire area around the statue, the steps, the pedestal, the flowers left by parishioners, seems to be covered in a thin veil of light. You can't see individual rays, but the whole space becomes warmer, softer, clearer. If you freeze the frame at 12:04:22 a.m., some people later said they could see what looked like a faint outline of another figure just behind the statue, like a shadow made of light standing tall with arms open. Others saw nothing but the statue and the glow. But almost everyone who watched the video agreed on one thing. That light did not behave like anything they had seen from the security cameras before. For exactly 2 minutes and 48 seconds, the glow remained. It flickered slightly as if breathing. At one point it brightened just as the sanctuary lamp in the background seemed to reflect it. Then just before 12:06 a.m., the light slowly faded. Not like someone flipping a switch. More like the sun setting behind a hill. Gentle, gradual, almost reluctant to leave. By 12:07 a.m., the church was dark again. No doors opened. No people entered. No alarms went off. To the world outside, nothing had happened. But heaven had visited that little parish, and the proof was waiting on a hard drive under the church office desk. The next morning, Emily Hayes, the parish secretary, came into the office balancing a stack of mail and her travel mug. She clicked through her morning tasks, emails, parish voicemails, bulletin notes. Then she opened the security system log. A yellow notification caught her eye. Motion detected, 12:03 a.m. Sanctuary camera 3. She frowned. That's weird. No one was here last night. Curious, she clicked on the thumbnail. Within 10 seconds, her eyes widened. At 20 seconds, she leaned forward, hand over her mouth. At a minute and a half, she whispered, "Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh." She didn't even finish the clip. Emily rushed out of her chair and ran down the short hallway to the rectory, knocking urgently on Father Daniel's door. "Father, you need to see this. Right now." Minutes later, Father Daniel sat at her desk, staring silently at the footage. He watched the empty sanctuary. He watched the glow appear. He watched it rest over the Virgin Mary statue like a gentle hand of light. He replayed it. He rewound. He checked the timestamp twice. Then he whispered, almost afraid of his own words, "Is this some kind of malfunction?" Emily shook her head. "We've had spiders, dust, camera glitches. Nothing ever looked like this. And Father, look at the reflection on the pews. It's lighting up the area, not just the lens." They called in Mark, a parishioner who worked in IT and had helped install the system. He examined the footage closely, rewound it, zoomed in. He checked the other camera angles. No exterior lights matched it, no passing cars, no movement at the doors. "Well," Mark said slowly, "from a technical side, it's not a known error. The sensor picked up light in that specific area. The lens isn't damaged. And the timeline, it's continuous. No edits." "So what are we looking at?" Father Daniel asked quietly. Mark hesitated, then shrugged. "I don't know, but, Father, you should see this." He paused the video at one frame and zoomed into Mary's face. In that still image, with the glow all around her, her carved expression looked almost different, like she was quietly watching someone, like she was listening. Emily crossed herself. Father Daniel exhaled. His mind raced. If we show this to people, will they think we're chasing attention? If we hide it, are we ignoring something heaven is trying to say? He decided to start small. That afternoon, he showed the video to a few trusted parishioners and one other priest from a neighboring parish. They watched it in stunned silence. Some began to cry. One older woman whispered, "That's exactly where I stand when I pray the rosary." Another said in a shaky voice, "Father, I've been asking Our Lady to show us that we're not alone, that God still cares about our little church. Word spread quietly at first, whispers in the pews, text messages between families. Did you hear about the footage from St. Michael's? They say something appeared over the Virgin Mary statue at night. Within 2 days, the video became the talk of the parish, and then it reached Anna. Anna heard about the video from an older nurse at the hospital. "Hey, aren't you part of St. Michael's?" the woman asked during a break. "My sister called me this morning. She said your church captured something strange on camera, over the Virgin Mary statue." Anna's heart skipped. She tried to shrug it off. "I'm sure it's just a reflection or something." But as she drove home that evening, snow melting in gray patches along the sidewalks, something in her heart tugged. Instead of going straight to her apartment, she turned left into the church parking lot. The sun was setting. A few cars were already parked for the evening mass. She went straight to the parish office. Emily looked up as Anna walked in. "Hi, Anna. Do you want to see it?" There was no small talk. No need. Anna nodded. They sat side by side at the desk as the video started to play. At first, Anna just saw the familiar inside of her church in black and white night vision. Then the glow appeared. It formed over the statue. It grew. It hovered. As the radiance washed over Mary's image, something inside Anna broke loose. She thought of the night Ethan died. She thought of the hospital hallway, the beep of machines, the way the world felt like it had stopped caring whether she breathed or not. She remembered screaming inside, "Where are you? God, where are you? Mary, do you even see me?" Now she stared at the screen as a light, gentle, warm, almost like a presence, rested exactly where she had stood so many times, whispering through tears. She couldn't explain it. She couldn't prove anything. But she felt something, like the light wasn't just over the statue. It was around her, through her, in the place where her heart had gone numb. Tears blurred her vision. Emily whispered, "You okay?" Anna nodded, but her voice was shaky. When was this recorded?" 3 nights ago, Emily said softly, at 12:03 a.m. Anna froze. 3 nights ago. That was the night she had come to the church after her shift, overwhelmed with grief as the anniversary of Ethan's death approached. That was the night she had stood in the dark, staring at the statue of Mary and whispering, "If you're really a mother, show me that you haven't forgotten us." Her breath caught. She did some quick math in her head. She had left the church just after 9:30 p.m. She had gone home, sat on her couch, and cried until nearly midnight. At around midnight, she remembered, she had suddenly felt an urge to whisper one more prayer. She had looked at Ethan's photo, hugged his baseball cap, and said aloud through tears, "Mother Mary, if my boy is with you, if you're real, please just let me know somehow. Please don't let me drown in this." Somewhere, not too long after that, in her parish church, a camera had captured a glow of light resting gently over the Virgin Mary statue. Anna began to sob, not the quiet, controlled tears she let others see. Deep, gut-wrenching sobs that had been locked away for 2 years. Emily gently placed a hand on her shoulder. "Anna, do you want to go see her? Not the video, the actual statue?" Anna nodded. They walked into the darkened church where only a few candles now flickered. The sanctuary was quiet, cold, still. The statue of Mary stood exactly where it always had, hands open, eyes lowered, mantle soft and simple. But Anna saw her differently now. She walked slowly down the aisle toward the right side altar. Her footsteps echoed. When she reached the statue, something in her heart whispered, "She was here that night. She really was here. And she saw me." Anna fell to her knees. For the first time in a long time, she didn't hold anything back. She told Mary everything, the anger, the loss, the loneliness, and the tiny, fragile hope that maybe, just maybe, her son wasn't lost in darkness, but held by the same mother who had come to stand silently over this parish. As she prayed, a strange peace settled over her. Her grief didn't vanish. Her pain didn't evaporate. But the crushing weight on her chest loosened. She felt held, not by a video clip, not by a headline, by a mother. The video couldn't stay secret for long. Within a week, it had spread beyond the parish. Father Daniel, after consulting with the diocese and making it clear that no official church judgment had been made, allowed the footage to be shown at the end of Masses and posted on the parish website with a simple message. We do not claim to know exactly what this is, but we know that many hearts are in need of hope. If this helps you remember that God is near, come and pray with us. People began to come. Not from across the world, not in enormous crowds, but in steady streams. Families who hadn't been to church in years, teens who had doubted everything about faith, elderly men and women who longed for a sign that heaven hadn't gone silent. They came and sat in the pews staring at the statue of Mary. Some prayed rosaries. Some just cried quietly. Some simply sat in silence, letting the stillness wash over them. One evening, a man who had described himself as not religious at all watched the video on his phone, then walked into the church and sat down. When someone later asked him why he had come, he shrugged and said, "I don't know. I just felt like she was inviting me." The parish changed. The financial problems didn't magically disappear overnight. The roof still needed repairs. The bills still had to be paid. But there was a new fire in people's hearts. Volunteers returned. Confession lines grew longer. The quiet weekday masses were no longer empty. Most importantly, people began to share their own stories. Small encounters with grace, moments of unexpected peace, tiny coincidences that they now dared to call signs. And Anna started leaving fresh white lilies at the base of the statue every month. She joined a small prayer group dedicated to Our Lady. On some evenings, she stayed after everyone left, humming softly the hymn she used to sing with Ethan. Hail Mary, gentle woman, peaceful dove. She still missed her son with every breath, but she no longer felt abandoned. She believed deep down that the glowing light on that video was not a random glitch. It was a mother's answer, not to erase her pain, but to step into it. The church has not officially declared the glowing light at St. Michael's a miracle. There was no message written in the sky, no audible voice from heaven, no sudden, complete healing that doctors couldn't explain. Just a quiet light, captured by a camera, hovering over a statue of the Virgin Mary in the middle of an ordinary night. For some, that's easy to dismiss. For others, it's enough to reopen a door in the heart that had been shut for years. But maybe the most important question isn't, was this scientifically provable? Maybe the deeper question is, what if heaven is closer than we think? And sometimes God uses simple things, a security camera, a piece of stone, a small glow of light, to remind us that we are seen. Anna's story, the parish of St. Michael's, and that mysterious light over Our Lady's statue invite us to look at our own lives. Where are you right now? Are you like Anna, carrying a grief so deep that it feels like God has gone completely silent? Are you like Father Daniel, wondering if your efforts, your prayers, your little parish, or your family are even noticed by heaven? Are you like the skeptics, curious, but afraid to hope that maybe, just maybe, there's more to this life than what we can measure and explain? Maybe you haven't seen a glowing light over a statue. Maybe your security cameras only pick up shadows and dust. But the same mother who stood under the cross, the same mother who watched her son die and rise again, the same mother who, many believe, keeps visiting her children in quiet, hidden ways around the world. She knows your name, she sees your tears, and she is not afraid of your questions, your doubts, your broken heart. Tonight, if you're listening to this, I want to invite you to take a moment, right after this video ends. Close your eyes. Imagine yourself standing in that little church, looking up at the statue of the Virgin Mary. Imagine that gentle light resting over her heart, and then shining softly over you. And with whatever words you can find, simple, messy, imperfect, just say, "Mother Mary, I don't know how to pray. I don't even know if I believe like I used to. But if you can hear me, please stand beside me. Show me that heaven hasn't forgotten me. Take my hand and lead me back to your son." You don't have to feel anything special. You don't have to see a sign in the sky. Sometimes the greatest miracle is simply discovering that you are not alone in the dark, that a mother is already there, quietly shining her light over your life in ways you may only understand later. If this story touched your heart, if you've ever experienced something you can't quite explain, a moment of protection, an unexpected peace, a small sign that you believe came from Our Lady or from God, we'd love to hear it. Share your story in the comments below. Your testimony might be the light someone else is desperately looking for right now. And if you want to journey with us through more real-life stories of faith, healing, and modern miracles connected to the Virgin Mary, subscribe to the Ave Miracles channel, turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any of the upcoming stories. Together, let's keep our hearts open. Because sometimes when the world is darkest, heaven turns on a light over a simple statue, just to remind us that a mother is still praying for us.